Welcome to Everyday Martial Artist, a weekly podcast where you'll join me, Brian Doucette, as I interview a different martial artist each episode and hear their story. Some guests you may have heard of, and some you probably haven't. Be sure to subscribe where all your favorite podcasts are available. Also visit our website at everydaymartialartist.com. If you're listening for a specific interview, I sure hope you'll stay and check out the other episodes. A very special thank you to Topher Williams for our custom theme music. And now, the newest episode of Everyday Martial Artist. Everyday Martial Artist is brought to you by KOOnline.com for all your martial arts needs. Sparring and safety gear, rank belts, uniforms, weapons, patches, and more. Wholesale supplies made by martial artists for martial artists. Visit us today at ko-online.com. Hello and welcome to Everyday Martial Artist. I'm your host, Brian Doucette, and as we do every week, we're joined by a brand new guest talking about their life and their journey throughout the world of martial arts. My guest today is an author and private security contractor who's been a successful teacher for over 10 years and a practicing martial artist for over 20. His personal teaching philosophy emphasizes mastery of fundamentals and the real confidence and personal achievement earned through dedication and hard work. He has also served as a licensed substitute music teacher for several local school districts, has been a clarinetist for over 20 years, performing actively around the greater Chicago area, Northwest Indiana, and internationally. Please welcome my guest today, Mr. Frank Delo. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Good. Well, first of all, I love the fact that you're a substitute music teacher. That's one thing that I have 3 kids, and music is and was such a huge part of their lives. So thank you for doing that. That's so cool.
Oh yeah, this is part of my one of my future books. Actually, the path of music and the path of martial arts have become very interconnected for me over the years.
Oh, cool.
I feel like there's a lot of universal concepts and truths that connect the two practices. So at some point when I get the time, or when I make the time, I'll crank out another book on that topic.
Awesome. That'll be cool. Well, kind of how we kick things off on the show, I want to go back to the very beginning. I mentioned you'd been in martial arts over 20 years. I just want to know kind of where it started. Where was that first spark? Kind of what led to your first interest in martial arts and what kicked off that martial arts journey for you?
Yeah, well, I'm a kid of my generation. I was born 1981, and I grew up through the era of like Ninja Turtles and He-Man and that kind of stuff. So like any other kid my age, I enjoyed the boy entertainment, people swinging weapons at each other. My dad facilitated by, at the time I thought it was just him playing swords with me. Mm-hmm. But, as I detail in the book, he was actually introducing me to our family's Filipino martial arts system at the same time. So technically, if you count my childhood play, like between Ninja Turtles and my dad playing with me like a good dad, that was my earliest introduction to martial arts. I didn't realize until adulthood, really, that he had been teaching me like a formal martial arts system at all.
Wow. I
had to go out and do seminars with people. We're pretty blessed here in the Chicago area with martial arts talent and big names coming through town. And 1 or 2 seminars in, and I realized we're learning all the same moves that I learned growing up. Right? So I went back to Dad and like, hey, is this a thing? And like, yeah, no, I just didn't think you'd be interested in our farm games. That's how he thought of it. It's just, that's how we played in the farm.
Wow.
So I think the whole flow of popularity of Filipino martial arts in the U.S. and abroad kind of passed him by. So it's cool to kind of come back around to that and be able to hold up my family's material into today's generation and today's audience.
That's really cool.
But that's my, going back to the question, that's my earliest introduction. From there, like a lot of kids into the 90s, I joined the local Taekwondo school.
Okay.
So I have a first degree black belt in Taekwondo from those years, and it kind of helped me build more of my broader martial arts base.
Okay. Do you remember which system of Taekwondo it was? Which Kwan?
Yeah, I think it was W2F.
Okay.
I was unaware of it at the time. I just knew actually it must have switched at some point because right when I hit my deputy belts, I don't know if they call them anything different now, but we had a couple deputy belts before you hit black belt. And right when we hit deputy belt, they told us to learn a whole different set of forms.
Okay.
So at some point, the school I was at must have switched switched organizations or material or something.
Been through the same thing. So I went through that too.
Yeah.
So, yep. So what do you now that was your first like organized official school you trained at. Did you get involved in competition while you were there at all?
I didn't as much. I think our school was one that was kind of more internally focused. So I didn't really, this sounds kind of funny, but like I didn't really compete until I left home to go to school, and they had like, other martial arts clubs to play with in college.
Okay.
So
what was next then after Taekwondo? What was your next?
Well, so this is where the music part kind of figures in.
Okay.
I knew I was advancing in music enough where I didn't want to continue a system that was going to potentially hurt my hands or diminish my my dexterity. Mm-hmm. Because I'm a clarinetist. You need your fingers a lot.
Yeah, I suppose.
So that took me down the path of exploring like so-called soft styles, internal systems. I floated through different Japanese and Chinese in softer arts, and eventually I landed on Bagwajang, the circle walking art. I don't know how familiar people are with it. Mm-hmm. But I practiced that in a general sense from assorted teachers. Just music took me a lot of different places, and I would try to make a point to look up teachers in the area that music took me, and just see if I could cross hands with people and learn a little something. So it was actually really cool. I met a lot of great teachers, got little slices of internal martial arts movement and concepts. I was always able to come home and test those in like a pressure testing sense with my friends back home. And then at some point I ran into the Magwe Bagwajang lineage. I ran into one of my teacher's students in Canada, just seemingly by chance. That kind of narrowed down the specific lineage of Bagwajang that I practice now. Okay. It fit my character, my outlook. And it demonstrated a lot of practical, like physical and martial skill at even the basic levels. So I got enamored with that system, and that's what I've been practicing now since 2011. Okay. And my teacher is Li Baohua. He's the current lineage holder. He's living in like the Tokyo suburbs somewhere. Okay. Anyway, that's where things led from there. And I at my school now we teach a mishmash of all these things together. With my Filipino martial arts, our combined curriculum has some of the material from our Taekwondo days, because 3 out of 4 instructors at the school have a Taekwondo black belt of some level. So it was easy to kind of combine our past experience there. Nice. And then most of us have a Chinese martial arts background of some kind. So we've been able to add that to the mix, and it's a pretty satisfying and well-rounded curriculum.
Yeah, I was just looking at on the website. Yeah, quite a nice variety. I mean, it said Filipino martial arts and Jeet Kune Do and Tai Chi, Kung Fu,
and my business partner's a wrestler too. So at some point, people get to play with him too, and it's since a lot of what we're doing with the rest of the curriculum is striking arts. Okay, having a base introduction to the ground that way, it's very. It's satisfying, I guess. Okay.
So what style, what school, what belt level did you first start getting involved with the teaching aspect of martial arts?
Well, I guess that started with Taekwondo, because at some point, at least at our school, at some point you're responsible to help the earlier belts below you. Mm-hmm. So I got a little bit of experience communicating martial arts to other people. That's where I started to figure out too how important teaching is to your personal understanding of your own practice. Mm-hmm. Is performing things is one thing. You have an internal body understanding of it, but to have to go through the exercise of communicating it in words to another person with completely different body, trying to find the ways that it makes sense to them. It gives you a whole different dimension of information for your practice.
Yeah, that's one thing I noticed when I started teaching. I definitely understood my own technique a lot better. And I mentioned this before, when I was just a student, I had my set of notes on all my techniques. And then when I started teaching, I pretty much redid most of my notes because I looked at them from a different angle, and the way I taught them was different than how I learned them. So I had basically my instructor notes and my student notes, for the same exact technique. And it's a whole nother depth of knowledge once you start teaching to other people, I think.
Yeah. I mean, and I took this path to at least some portion of my extended career, teaching everything besides just martial arts. My bachelor's is in music education, so had a lot of formal classes of learning to teach. And you get a lot of information there, but everyone will tell you you get the most knowledge just in the field actually teaching. There's only so much those college classes will help you with when you're actually in a classroom of your own.
Right.
But I got to, over the years, I really got to explore that idea of like how to communicate, big classes, small classes. I still feel like I excel more in the small group or private setting because, I have one brain to figure out and try to communicate to them. Classrooms can be such a big mix. And, I've seen it in both in elementary school classrooms and in my own group classes. Everybody's brain is different and you have to find bigger, broader ways to communicate that doesn't always get all the details that every student needs. So that's kind of the sacrifice of large group teaching.
Right.
You convey a lot, but it can only go so deep because you can't cover the bell curve of brains in there. So
think back to then the Taekwondo school you first started teaching to now you're running your own school. What do you think has changed the most about your teaching style over the years?
I've grown, I think, a lot more concise, at least on the mat. Part of my main concerns is pacing and the flow of time in a class. Because if you sit and discuss a point too long, doesn't matter if it's an adult or a kid, they'll just glaze over and you lose attention. So I've tried to find ways to communicate as close to the point as possible in the shortest amount of time that still makes sense. And then once we establish kind of the general concepts, I try to find the shortest cues possible to help remind. I got this idea from, there's a strength coach in Texas named Mark Ripito. He wrote the book Starting Strength. It's a great resource on basic fundamental strength training. He does this pattern when he's giving the physical cues for big lifts. Mm-hmm. He'll explain the concept, coach you through the lift, but then all the major sticking points, he'll find a single word cue or short cue. Like, okay, you're stuck in this part of the deadlift. He'll call out, hips. And then the student understands when he calls out hips, there's a specific thing that they need to fix. And then they just do it by hearing the word. So it's a very short cue. I like that pattern because it gets to the point and people still get to move and continue what they're doing. Like, for instance, Filipino martial arts. Mm-hmm. I have some of my students, they'll still fight. They have the weapon in their dominant hand, but they have their offhand in front, kind of like a, orthodox boxing stance, which is fine, except you're leading with meat. Your hand is in front and it's a weapon fight. It's a different dynamic. So part of my verbal cue is I'll just call out, you're leading with meat or call out meat. It's a double joke because, my students know how much I enjoy eating. So, those worlds cross over in class, but they also know that they have some appendage out in front where the weapon should be leading and protecting them. Okay. That's the kind of, to go back to the question, that's the kind of teaching I'm trying to do is broadly understandable, concise, at least during the teaching. Clearly, it's taking more words to explain the approach now, but
that's probably a good thing, though.
Yeah, I've seen what happens when you go into lecture mode at the wrong time in the wrong place with the wrong audience, and I just feel like on the mat it needs a different mode of teaching. Now, let's say you're in a seminar, like a long weekend seminar, I think to get the most out of those, you need those short periods of more lecture explanation, so you're not just learning 100 different drills and then, goodbye, the weekend's over, and You're just kind of stuck with whatever you can cobble together with your notes. Actually, I did this yesterday. I was at Anime Midwest. It's a big anime convention here in the Chicago area.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I was able to do a Filipino martial arts panel for them.
Nice.
And of course, that audience, you're lucky if anyone's thought of protecting themselves at all, let alone picking up a formal martial art, right?
Right.
So in there, I have to think of how do I communicate this concern of protecting yourself to this audience it's not their main concern or it's never crossed their mind, but also satisfy some of the experienced martial arts who come in there out of curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it comes back to these big basic cues, and a lot of this I detail in the book. Just reducing the concept of striking angles, for instance, down to our quadrants. We have 4 quadrants and a center line. That's our system, Cinco Terros. So 4 quadrants and a center line. Try to reduce all the possible striking options to these general zones. And it's something they start to get. I mean, not everyone's a master when they go to their the anime convention panel, but right. I saw a lot of people, they're already moving and applying the principles in a way that's, at least for baseline self-defense, it's already useful. It's already effective. And they could have the rest of their lives to polish it if they want. But I don't know if I'll ever see these people again.
Mm-hmm.
Or if people walk into my school and for a trial class, I don't know if they'll ever stick around. So I want these lessons to stick. I want these ideas to stick. So if I can give them something big, broad, and easy to remember, easy to understand, then maybe they'll keep it longer and maybe it'll keep them safe.
That's cool. I like that. So think back to your Taekwondo black belt test and then your test for whether it's Filipino martial arts, Kung Fu, kind of compare of like, for people who maybe don't know the different styles, just, you don't have to go completely in depth, but just a few of the main differences in like testing for a belt for a more well-known system like Taekwondo, versus some of the, other systems you've studied, just a few of the differences in the testing requirements.
Yeah. So my Taekwondo black belt test was probably the most formalized affair. As far as, like we took a day and series of warm-ups. You have to, for my school, we had to submit like a written essay, and like the pattern is very organized. It imparts a certain weight, like social weight to the affair. And I do enjoy that pattern. It's certainly a lot of physical and mental stress as you're trying to remember all of the curriculum that they could possibly pull out, or you're exhausted and they want you to do some more spinning kicks and that kind of thing. Even the testing experience, it's a learning experience to work through. My other arts have not been as formal as far as how progress is measured. I mean, my Bagua teacher, basically, you just keep training with him. He keeps telling you you're getting better at this or worse at this. Like, he just keeps teaching you, and then one day you're told that you have a certain, like, you've mastered a certain portion, or you're allowed to teach a certain material.
Okay. So
I know some other lineages, some other Kung Fu styles, they'll have a little more formalized affairs. I mean, even to join the lineage, like some people you have to pledge discipleship still, or real formalized, ritualized events. My teacher just kind of like, okay, you took the trouble to find me and train with me. You're a student now,
Nice.
So, and he's said himself, like, he's a more modern style teacher. He's trying to preserve our classic art, but there's some of the like cultural trappings that he doesn't want to have to bind us to. So yeah, I'm taking that example as well. Like, it's kind of, to me, it's two sides of a spectrum. And then as far as the Filipino martial arts go, like, I just grew up with it. It wasn't even a martial arts frame of mind that I learned it in. It was just play. It would be like playing Monopoly for your whole life, and then one day somebody hands you a business degree, and you just didn't realize that you were working on something like that your whole life. So I know some of the other Filipino martial arts systems, they've taken time to organize curriculum in a certain way, organize ranks and tests. I think that's important, especially for systems that have like a large body of curriculum, mm-hmm. and a larger presence. It's kind of a quality control thing. You don't want to just hand everybody a piece of paper that says they're allowed to teach.
Right.
And, God knows what the quality of it is. So I haven't really formalized that in my own family system yet. It's just, we play a lot in class. I even refer to it as play in class. And people see their skill develop, and we honestly discuss it. Everyone's helping each other. And it's not super formalized, but it's structured to help everyone continuously improve.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
No, that does actually.
At least that's what I'm striving for. I mean, you can probably ask my students if they think they're successful with it. But.
Yeah. So you kind of mentioned your school and how I'm just kind of curious, what led to the decision to open your own school?
It actually kind of fell in our laps at one point. So we officially opened in 2015, but before that, the other instructors and I were just working part-time for like a local, corporate chain school, a franchise school.
Okay.
Kind of, in my opinion, kind of watered down curriculum, the funny business practices, which is why it led to it closing, I think, eventually. But at the time that old school closed, we'd collected this body of instructors each of us had a unique and valuable martial arts background. So we just kind of sat together and we have the membership of this school that if we do nothing, it's just going to close and they're going to go away to some other place, or they're just going to quit martial arts.
Right.
Or we can take the risk and try to open up our own private school. So that's what we did. I mean, this is a bad habit I have for martial arts of just kind of charging in and waiting to take punishment. So in the business world, that's what we did. We just, I put my head down and okay, let's open a school. You start learning lessons the hard way, getting those hits in the face, like learning all the legal business stuff, understanding business and money. I mean, none of us were business people. We're just martial artists who wanted to teach. But that's kind of what happened. Old school closed, different curriculum, and we decided to combine a large portion of our individual knowledge into a unified curriculum. And then, of course, offering separate classes for each of our individual arts.
Nice.
It's 2023 now, 8 years.
Okay.
And we've had a lot of hard lessons, learning cash flow and being in and out of different locations in the area, just trying to figure our way. But it's helped us get stronger. It's helped us build better school processes, all the day-to-day stuff to run a school.
Right.
So, yeah, that's where we're at.
Okay.
I can still afford to grow a bit more, but the school fell in our lap, but it felt like the right, it was kind of the circumstances lined up, and I think it was the right call. And I feel like it's leading us to a good direction as long as I keep up the hard work and maybe learn some of the lessons not the hard way. Like ask some experts and learn things and
Good. That's cool. Well, congrats on that. That's awesome. So then definitely want to mention the book. That's kind of how I found you anyway, and how we found each other. I mean, is your book. So talk about that. What was the decision that led to write the book, and then just talk a little bit about what people can find in the book.
Yeah, well, that came during a time where, I mean, I'm sure everyone remembers we were all given suddenly extra time to be at home.
Uh-huh. So
I needed something to do. I mean, even the school was put on hold. Like we were at some point, it was like literally threat of law enforcement if you try to open something physically or like with the exercise related business. Mm-hmm. So like we just could not operate the way we were. So I sat down and tried to outline at least what I knew of the system. Dad's still here. He's still around, but it gave me time to talk to him more and try to unearth some more family history. He ended up sharing more of his personal notes with me on the martial arts, like specific techniques and curriculum that he'd used before. But yeah, it was kind of a labor of love. I wanted to preserve some of that legacy. And in a way, it was one of my efforts to kind of reconnect to my home culture, their culture of origin. Because, like I said, I grew up here in the U.S. in the 80s and 90s, trying to find my place as an American. And the way you look at your home culture as an immigrant, like immigrant family, can vary. It seems like some cultures, you're here in the country, but you remain a product of your culture of origin.
Right.
some people they get here and it's like they cast off everything that from their culture of origin and they dive wholesale into the new country. I felt like I was kind of always on the fence. I love America and I love the Philippines via my family. Like that's so. I think writing the book was a little bit cathartic to me to kind of help me figure out more of my place in between these two cultures, and in a way help people appreciate across the cultures. I mean, I can't say I'm like fully one or the other. Like it's always going to be this blend. So I feel like that's part of what you'll get in the book. You'll even see something. I put some personal anecdotes in there from just family life and growing up, because I feel like it's important as far as understanding the martial art, right, to understand some of those experiences.
I like it. I'm assuming that's your dad in a lot of the pictures with you?
Yes, it's me and Dad.
That's cool.
We took a day with a photographer friend, and he just basically took pictures of me getting beat up.
I bet your dad got a kick out of that, though. That had to be kind of fun for him.
Oh, yeah. I think he didn't. I'm sure I said earlier, he always kind of viewed this as just farm games. Like he didn't put a lot of importance onto it to a certain point. But I think once he actually saw like the first copy of it in print, it's like, oh, it's actually that important now.
That's cool.
And I kid you not, as soon as I hand him that first copy of the book, he goes back into his room and he hands me a whole separate book of notes that he had kept. And basically he says, okay, here's the beginning of book number 2.
That's awesome.
So like, it made me curious, like how much extra are you holding back from me? But at the same time, I'm excited because that's just more that I can share when I can get down and get it written.
That's really cool. That's congrats. That's awesome. And it's been pretty well received then? People are enjoying it?
So far, last I checked on Amazon, we're at a healthy 4 stars.
Okay.
I've seen some people complain. It's the internet. Everyone's going to find something to complain about. But
right.
I've seen some complaints that it's not a college textbook. Basically, the not enough details, or somebody complained about pictures being blurry. Like, A, I don't see your book out.
Yep.
And B, I tell people like this is not meant to be like a college textbook. It's not meant to be a high level like advanced academic book. There's plenty of books out there that are like that they're great if you study in that mode. But my personal mission with all of this is to be broadly understood. I want to help people by being the gateway to these arts. That's part of even the description of the book. It's meant to be a gateway into the broader world of martial arts.
Right. And the title, 5 Angles, The Practical Fundamentals of the World of Filipino Martial Arts of Eskrima, Arnis, and Cali. And I will put a link for that out there when the show comes out for sure.
Great. Thank you. But you see what I'm saying? Like, we have plenty of people trying to make it sound like really advanced or secretive or less accessible. I'm trying to come out here with open arms, with an open door. Maybe you've never seen any martial arts before. Let's start with this at least. I don't see, if we want arts to survive, I don't see why there has to be a layer of inaccessibility. There's already a paywall. You're right. You pay for a copy of the book. I'm not bleeding you dry like college tuition or anything.
Yeah.
It would be nice to get something back for the effort that I put in to write it. To layer on top of that, these kind of like, you have to be part of the clique or club or these other layers of keeping people at a distance. Like, I don't see the value of that, especially if your goal is to share. Like, is your goal really to share what you have, or is it to feel, is it focused on yourself or your group?
Right.
I'm trying to avoid those kind of trappings and really make it broadly available.
So now at the beginning you talked about, obviously a second book you want to write at some point. So other than a second book, 5 years, what's your goal martial arts wise in the next 5 years? What do you want to accomplish?
I would love to have more than one location.
Nice.
I'm aiming regionally.
Okay.
The school here in the Chicago area, that's our first one, and we have to make the model work as far as business goes. But I'm a big believer in the curriculum we've assembled and the different, the different martial arts that we represent. And I feel like it'll be well received in other parts of the country once we have the business model really, really refined. I don't want to get ahead of myself because
Right.
I don't think I have enough money to.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a good time to have schools like that. I mean, we've seen the rise and success of the sport MMA world,
Hmm.
which in itself is a mix of effective martial arts for a certain setting,
Right.
right? So I would like to have more than one location within these 5 years. I enjoy speaking and teaching. Like I mentioned the anime convention
Right.
earlier. I enjoy traveling to do events, so I would like to be able to do more of that. At least for martial arts, I've been around a couple different cities, just sharing some of what I have with other martial arts friends and colleagues, and usually in a mixed setting of like other Filipino martial arts or other martial arts in general. But I would like to be able to do more of that as well. I would like to have. I've been trying to work on this. Time and energy aren't always in my favor, but I would like to get my book translated into more languages,
Oh, okay.
so that I can take the translations of those books to the different countries and make it a speaking and training opportunity as well. Because I've seen. Filipino martial arts is already an international phenomenon. Like I've met some of my best friends in Filipino martial arts are from Europe and abroad. I want to be able to connect with and support these growing groups of Filipino martial arts enthusiasts around the world. Yeah, more translations, more speaking, more training.
Okay. Good. Some good goals.
I should probably give myself a vacation at some point. But
Those are nice every now and then.
yeah.
So you mentioned MMA. So I'm curious, and what are your thoughts on MMA and the UFC, and is that something you're a fan of?
I mean, I'm not a diehard fan where I keep up with every single event, every
Right.
single fighter. I do appreciate it. It has a real important place in martial history as shaking up the martial arts world, kind of reminding us lessons of relevance and effectiveness, pressure testing. I think there's extreme views in either direction or multiple directions. I've heard some people say MMA is the best way and everything else is trash or something to that effect. And then I've heard other people, MMA is only a sport and it's going to get you killed on the street. I've heard all the different opinions. I'm sure your audience has as well.
Definitely.
I see it as valuable. Like you certainly need some amount of pressure testing. Whatever you train, you need enough pressure testing to be honest about what you're actually capable of and what your art can and can't do for you. On the other side, I think we need to understand the context of modern MMA as a sport. And whether we like it or not, it's your training. When you train in an MMA format, you're training with certain assumptions of, mainly like a ref jumping in or a certain amount of medical care at the ready. There's a context to it. So if you can harness the athleticism and the martial tools from MMA training, but still be honest about the capabilities in other contexts, like then it's fine. I just think people tend to get, let's say, like a fan's view of it as opposed to a broader, more realistic view of everything. I have friends who are competitive fighters, and they're great at what they do, but we try to understand what it's for, what it's not for. If you're in a different environment, you have to understand that environment, the dangers of it. I mean, this is where FMA crosses over. I've played with people, and I tell them like, okay, I'm going to keep training knives on me. And then we start to play, start to roll, or start to spar. At some point, a knife comes out, and even though you tell them, it's still a surprise. It's like, oh, okay, I understand that there's a certain part of my programming that's less prepared for a certain context. So I don't know if I'm making sense with any of this, but that's my outlook on MMA. Like, it's great, but you have to understand the context.
No, that's good. Makes perfect sense. All right. So in all your years, I mean, from when your father started, playing with you to all your formal training, is there one philosophy within martial arts that you've learned that is just super important to you? It's on the top of your list. You keep coming back to it.
Oh, well, that one I'll have to give to my Bagua training.
Okay.
So Bagua is the art of change. So you do your practice, you learn your movements, your structures and all that, but it's really about how you adapt to a changing environment. So in combat, in sparring, I've taken that to heart, and just allow myself to flow and adapt with what's coming in, like trust what's been programmed into my body through training, and then just allow it out. It's been surprising just from the basic Bagua practice, circle walking and doing the changes, the kind of applications, the kind of responses that come out, even in like, not like full contact sparring, but like reasonably higher pressured, non-compliant training. We're swinging at each other. People are trying to take you down, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And the body responses just start to emerge. And you stick to these basic principles. Like, I don't want to get hit. I don't want to get taken down. I want, depending on the severity of your training, it's like, I want to stop the other person in a certain way, like more kindly or less kindly. Mm-hmm. And then the solutions emerge. So, and that's branched out into business, into life. I mean, if I had had my way when I was like an 18-year-old kid, just graduated from high school, I would have been like a small town, underpaid, like Christian school band director somewhere. I mean, no disrespect to people whose career that is, but at some point I accepted that there's a lot more in life, and it's not always something I can predict. So if I stick to my core principles and prepare to adapt, it'll help me move forward. And that's what I've experienced to this point. I mean, I never would have guessed that I would have had a book out or owned a school, or half the places I played music through the course of my lifetime. I never would have guessed music would have taken me so far and introduced me to so many great people. But, I stick to these principles of, for music, just being as good as I can be and being honest to myself artistically. And then the opportunities have come out literally worldwide, and I'm taking that pattern now to my martial arts business. If I'm honest and open about my martial arts material and experience, if I'm good to people, and if I try to connect through, if I grow my network through sharing value, then the quote unquote applications will arise. The results of holding those principles will come out as a natural result. I've seen it happen. It's happening now. I'm pretty confident it's going to happen. But I feel like that's all kind of an extension of my understanding of Bagua.
I like that. All right. I have a few fun questions to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Now this one, it doesn't have to be 4. I've had as few as 2 and as many as 8. So just 3, 4, 5 names that you would put on your personal Mount Rushmore of martial arts.
As a Filipino or Filipino American, mm-hmm. I'd probably put Chief Lapu-Lapu. He's the guy who offed Magellan during his circumnavigation. Okay. There's actually a cool statue of him in Cebu, like right where that battle happened. This big, beautiful statue of the guy who killed Magellan. Nice. But I put him on there. Let's see, Dong Hai Chuan for me is the I don't know about founder, but the person who promoted Bagua publicly, mm-hmm. Kind of progenitor of the system. I feel like Bruce Lee, I mean, that's part of, we teach some of his Jeet Kune Do at our school, okay. And I feel like he did a lot as far as like the modern outlook of martial arts. So let's see, that's 3. Oh man, Macho Man Randy Savage. Nice. Because I got to put a wrestler in there.
I like it.
He's a figure of note. I mean, if people who've never seen him wrestle live are still impersonating him on, in the gyms or on social media, I feel like he's earned a broader place in martial history. So
cool. I like that. You're definitely the first person to ever mention him. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I still think of him when I eat Slim Jims or
a Slim Jim.
Yes.
That's awesome. Oh, that's good. That just made me laugh. That's definitely, actually your 4 might be, I don't think anyone's ever mentioned any of your 4 before. It's a pretty good Mount Rushmore there.
Breaking new ground here.
There you go.
Great.
All right. Now you're a kid of the 80s and 90s. So do you have a favorite martial arts video game?
Oh man, there was I can tell you what I spent a lot of quarters on as a kid.
Okay.
There was the Turtles, Ninja Turtles arcade game.
The 4 different controllers.
Yeah, yes. Yeah. You could play as all 4 turtles with your friends if you wanted. That was I definitely spent a lot of quarters on that. Eventually, I ended up on Mortal Kombat.
Nice.
I had the Sega Genesis version. and everyone was all tickled because you could turn the pixels red instead of whatever, like green or whatever other color.
Yep.
You get your pixelated blood and 32-bit skulls and stuff. Whatever it was that upset traditional media people.
Yep.
Mortal Kombat and the Tekken games.
Nice.
Eventually, when they came out,
Yep.
that was another mild breakthrough for me as far as understanding the bigger world of martial arts. Because back then I was just fresh out of Taekwondo. It's like kicks and punches to me. I didn't really understand that there was more.
Right.
But then you see all these characters, different styles, and I got to give them credit. Like the Japanese gaming programmers, when they research fighting styles, they're actually like there's a lot of accuracy in a lot of these games.
Right.
There was a character in one of the Tekkens. He does Xing It's like a very it's one of the main Chinese internal arts, but you rarely see it either publicly performed or represented in any media.
Right.
Outside of like Chinese action movies. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I watched it my little understanding of internal arts at the time, that character does that style. Like I've never seen that before. Or the capoeira guys, sumo,
yes.
You just mash them all together. The Soul Calibur, I think that was back in the 90s. You had all the different weapon fighting, but it was basically Tekken with weapons in their hands.
Right.
But I enjoyed all that stuff.
Nice.
And I have to admit too, people don't think of it as much as a martial art, but anything with a light gun where you're shooting at a screen, I got a big kick out of that.
Very cool. All right. How about now this one? You can't pick your own, a favorite martial arts book.
Let's see. That's a tough one because my library at home is spilling over with other people's great work. But all right, let me reach over. All right. I don't know if it's a specific book I'd pick because I own several,
right.
But books by Rory Miller.
Yeah, I just interviewed Rory.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is such a soapbox for me, especially with having a background in these traditional arts. It's like we need to understand them from the context of modern human violence.
Right.
So I spent a lot of time reading his work and a lot of similar authors because I want people. I don't want to be just like a historian of these arts or just like a cardio kickboxing class teacher. I don't want it to be just the exercise or just the history. Like I want people if they want personal safety out of the practice, I want them to honestly understand it from the terms of human violence. Right. So yeah, I'm a big fan of his material. So I have several of his books on my shelf, and I'm sure if I dig enough through the clutter, I might have a video of his or somewhere.
Very cool. It was a great interview. That episode comes out in about a week and a half.
Nice. I will be on top of that one. All
right. How about a favorite martial arts TV show?
TV show. The show's maybe a little the nerdier. I mean, if we're martial artists, we're all nerds. But
yep, definitely.
I've enjoyed the old David Carradine Kung Fu show.
Okay.
I mean, not for the martial arts. I have to clarify.
Yes.
But it was the early version was just it's something I can look back on as trying to represent Eastern thought to a Western audience.
Right.
And I appreciate it for that.
That answer has been given a few times. So.
Yeah. And guilty pleasure. I enjoyed the second version of that show just because it was just ridiculous and over the top.
Kung Fu, the legend continues. See, I did too. I actually enjoyed it. I think me and you were the only ones that enjoyed that because all my other guests God, no, I couldn't watch it.
Yeah. I mean, I experienced the same feeling of cringe as I'm sure everyone else did, but it was that kind of stuff fascinates me too. Like yes. I love campy movies, campy media, and just to see that subject matter and David Carradine himself just blow that whole thing out of the water with just over the top. So I enjoyed it, but maybe not for the reasons they wanted it to be enjoyed.
Right. So I got to ask then, since you remember that show, because a lot of people don't even remember there was a sequel. Do you remember the show that was around the same time called Street Justice? It was with Carl Weathers, who played Apollo Creed, and a Hungar stylist named Brian Genesee.
I feel like I would have seen that, but okay. For the life of me, I can't remember any of it.
Yeah, it was a cop. Like Carl Weathers was a cop, and Brian Genesee was this young guy who lived with him that was a martial artist and helped him solve crimes and stuff.
Nah.
It was a fun show. I enjoyed it.
Is that online somewhere? Now I'm intrigued.
If it is, I haven't found. I mean, I'm sure there's probably some episodes on YouTube, but I haven't found the full series yet.
Oh wow, Street Justice.
Yeah. I need to find it because I'd love to rewatch it and see. Just like I say, because I probably haven't watched it since the early '90s, so I know in my head how good I think it was.
Yeah. Did that go like a full season or more than one season? I want to
say it went at least 2 seasons. I want to say
that's got to be out there somewhere then.
At least to 91 to 93. So yeah, 2 seasons.
Nice. All right, that's on my.
If you find it, you got to let me know because I definitely want to rewatch it and just see. So that's good. All right, how about a favorite martial arts movie?
Oh man, I'm a big fan of Big Trouble in Little China.
Nice.
I don't like, it's not like saying Enter the Dragon or anything awesome. Oh, that was an awesome movie too.
Yes,
but there's something about, like I said, I'm a fan of campy stuff and over the top, and just the way that movie is from start to finish. It's just so satisfying. Yeah, and the martial arts were cool too. Like they got legit martial arts people to do all this stuff, and all the generation of stunt guys back then. Like you have all these great luminary martial arts figures. So as far as that's concerned, you get cool martial arts representation, but just everything else about that movie is just so satisfying.
Yeah,
like we've had a couple watch parties at the school for that.
Nice.
And I've been meaning to show other movies, but that's always the first one I reach for. and I have to be honest, I have not received complaints yet.
That's awesome.
It's like, we just get to watch it. We just get to watch the same movie again together. Like, okay.
So I'm assuming you're also a fan of The Last Dragon then?
Oh, I haven't watched that as much, but I enjoy that a lot too.
Because that's right up there with that one and Big Trouble in Little China, right up there together for me. So
yeah, I gotta get one day when I can afford the video advertising. I get myself in that colored in lightning effect.
There you go.
Yeah, or shooting the lightning like the character
Shogun of Harlem and Bruce Leroy.
Yeah.
So good. Okay, nice. All right, final martial arts question. This one doesn't have to be a martial arts movie, just a favorite movie fight scene.
Oh man. Here's 2 extremes.
Okay.
So one extreme, basically the whole last John Wick movie, John Wick 4.
Nice.
I don't even consider that separate fight scenes. It just seems like one long 3-hour fight scene to me.
Okay.
On the other side of the spectrum, there's that scene in Indiana Jones where the guy's swinging the sword around and then Indy just shoots him.
Yep. So you're the second person that said that in the last week for me. That's awesome.
You have to admit it's a very practical solution to that circumstance.
Oh yeah.
I love, I've watched, I said earlier, like my martial arts career started from media. So I have just endless references back, like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, just something like they portrayed the beauty of Chinese martial arts in a particular way. There's like the real artistic look at those arts. I feel like that I credit that movie in part to me pursuing more of the Chinese arts in general.
Okay.
Just like kind of the beauty and athleticism of it. Yeah, and I'm a musician too, so the artsy stuff kind of strikes a chord with me. But then, I grew up watching Rambo movies too, just seeing them pop up out of the woods and knife a guy in the leg. There's Filipino martial arts. There's the movie The Hunted, Benicio del Toro, and they're knifing each other too. And part of that was the representation. Like, here's these arts that are part of our Filipino martial arts, and now we get to see it on screen in a more primary way. So yeah, I mean, that's martial arts media. That's probably at least another hour or more of conversation if you let it. But I've seen a lot of cool media. I have a bit part in you can look it up if you want, or you and the audience can look it up if you want. Legendary Masters Council. It was a martial arts short film project put on by one of my friends. Okay. It's up on Vimeo for rent or purchase. I don't do any fighting in it because it's a pilot, but you see me in there. I have kind of a bit part in there. They do a lot of other fighting, but they're waiting for later. If the project picks up and does more episodes, then you might see me actually hitting people in that one. But
cool.
Yeah,
we'll definitely check
Legendary Masters Council.
Okay, I will check that out. And then final question. I know I noticed on your website that you actually host a clarinet podcast called Clarinet Dojo, and I'm just wondering, any thoughts of a martial arts podcast?
I'd thought of that again during lockdowns.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would just be a matter of finding the time, because I have a lot of friends in martial arts. I mean, I feel like a lot of podcast projects started when we just had a lot of time and we wanted to talk to our friends and colleagues.
That is true.
That's definitely where my clarinet podcast came out of. And you hear it in the tone, like, I don't know anything about editing. I just like threw it up there. And like I'm just talking to my friends, doing shop talk for some time. Or I had one episode, I think up to 3 hours. We're just sitting there yakking about just incredibly nerdy clarinet stuff that only people in that industry would possibly find interesting. Plus a lot of just catching up on life. So, I haven't seen some of these people in years, but I think at some point, I mean, I'm open to it. And my business partner and I share a similar taste in media. So we're thinking about, maybe just doing, a Mystery Science Theater 3000 style commentary over stuff.
Very cool.
So it's a possibility. I don't know that I have the time or energy right now to jump into that.
It is time consuming. I will tell you from lots of experience. I mean, I love doing it, and I've been editing audio most of my life, but it's our interview here. It'll probably take me 4 to 5 hours to edit it and get it ready to release. So it's definitely time consuming.
Yeah. I don't think I have that in my schedule, nor do I have the budget to farm it out to anyone else. So at some point, when I've made my millions and I can do whatever I feel like, I'll definitely find a slice of time for that. But
like I said, I'll put links for all that stuff out there. But I got to say thank you, man. This has been so much fun. I know I knew literally nothing about you before you reached out about the book and stuff, and I'm so glad you did, because it's been a fun conversation. I'd love to meet you in person next time I'm going through Chicago. I'll have to pop in and check out your school. But it's been a blast hearing your story, and I can't wait to get the episode out.
Yeah, thank you. I had a lot of fun myself, and I'm looking forward to going through your backlog of episodes and hearing all of our other colleagues and fellow nerds and their outlook on stuff. Yeah, no, it's great. I'm glad these circumstances came together. So
me too. It's been a blast, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, you too. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to Everyday Martial Artist. We hope you will join us every week for a brand new episode with a different martial artist telling their story. If you enjoy the show, be sure to leave us a review. Also, be sure to check out our website at everydaymartialartist.com. There you can find all of our episodes and contact us to suggest guests and ask questions. Again, thanks for listening to Everyday Martial Artist, and we'll see you next week.